You can't kill a skeleton with a knife. Darn more paperwork. Moaned a man in a blue top hat and tux in a mask. He was known as Blue Midnight, a superhero. His son hit him on the back and laughed. You love paperwork, what are you worried about? Said his son laughing. Get out of my hair, boy. Blake snapped at his son Lance, who was dressed similarly in blue. You'd think you didn't love me, said his son sarcastically. Not now, I'm on a case, Enchanter. Blake then said accusingly. The Necromancer murdered another person. Oh, that is terrible. Did I know them? Lance asked. You tell me. We can't ID them. We are going to have to do DNA tests and tooth tests, not much left of them, Blake said disgustedly. That bad, eh? Lance said sadly. That's not the only one. He struck again yesterday, Blake said. Lance lost the sarcastic manner he had. He looked shocked. The other murder wasn't him, someone framed him. He's innocent as a lamb, Lance said. I could never call him a lamb, he's a wolf, Blake said. Who was framed? A man in a red tux, mask, and top hat said, walking up to them. Hi. Fox, he thinks someone framed the Necromancer, said Blake, still the same to me, more paperwork. We have to investigate whoever the killer is. Renard, the red fox said. True, Lance said, it's starting to look like anyone can kill people. If you aren't going to help us, then go away, you psycho. Blake said, who knew the Necromancer was Lance. But, he's been framed. Lance said. Why do you care? He's a murderer. Said Renard, he didn't know Lance's secret, how do you know he's innocent anyway? He was with me yesterday. Said Lance, grabbing for an alibi. You were with him? Said the fox skeptically. Yes. Lance said desperately. When and why? Asked the fox. All day. Said Lance, not knowing when the other victim died. All day. You spent the day with him. An insane murdering killer? Said the fox. He is my said Lance, who was having a hard time thinking. He's Lance's better half. Blake said, frowning. He's your boyfriend, shouted the fox insanely. Lance's eyes widened. Is there something wrong with that? Lance snapped, glaring at Blake. He wasn't having an affair with anyone but his wife, let alone himself. He's an insane, violent serial killer. The fox shouted. He'd never hurt me, Lance said, telling the truth. Who is he? Asked the fox. Search me? Lance said, I don't know. Mind if I go, Uncle Ray? I want to clear my name. My partner's name. Lance said, trying to get away. No, you stay. Said Renard, grabbing his wrist. Why are you and your father blocking your minds? We aren't. Blake said defensively. Now, why would we do that? Said Lance, thinking he couldn't go much lower without coming out as the Necromancer. He'd already come out as a cheating partner and gay when he was neither. You know something. Both of you do. Renard hissed. My thoughts are private. Lance protested. He pulled his arm free and stomped off. What is he hiding, Blake? You know? Renard, the sergeant snapped. In reply, Blake disappeared into thin air, leaving Renard alone and frustrated. Morton, please follow Lance, Blake ordered a grim Reaper. Why? Asked the Reaper. He may need help. I suspect he may have been framed. He's in trouble more than usual. Blake said. Don't let him see you. Okay, Blake, Morton said to his son. Send the ghost in the foyer in when you leave, Dad, Blake said. Morton walked out of the dingy paperwork-littered office of Blake. Why am I here? The ghost asked. You were murdered. Blake said. I know. Said the ghost, but, what are you doing here? You aren't dead. Don't hold that against me. I am on your case. I'm the coroner in charge of your case. Said Blake. What is a coroner doing in the afterlife? Said the ghost. I'm not going there, Blake said. I want to know who killed you. I saw a man I don't know in blue jeans and a red parka. The ghost said. Blake pulled out a picture out of a folder on his bench. It was a picture of Lance masked in a black outfit holding a sword, obviously taken by a reaper without Lance knowing. Is he anyone special? Asked the ghost, seeing it. He is Fate's hand of justice, or so he thinks. He's actually Fate's assassin. Blake said. Is he your brother? He looks a lot like you. Said the ghost. He's my son. Not my brother, Blake said. Who are you? Asked the ghost. The king of the Grim Reapers, Blake said. And my son did not kill you. Lancelot Blake Valentine Alexander Drax, Renard, dressed in a police sergeant's uniform, said. The Enchanter, I know his name. Said the detective on the case. He's a suspect in the case, said Renard. Why? He's nice and he helps the police. Said the detective. Only when it suits him, Renard said. He's protecting the Necromancer. Is that why there is an all-points bulletin out on him and he's in hiding? Asked the detective. Yes. Renard said. Lance heard a voice behind him call his name. He span around. What? He asked, seeing Blake. Here to gloat at the depths I've fallen? Lance asked. No, I won't help you, said Blake. You want to help me? I am a murderer, said Lance. I know, but not in the second case, said Blake. The victim didn't know you. I interrogated his ghost, even showed him your picture. What did he say? Asked Lance. The killer was a man in jeans and a red raincoat, said Blake. Here is a sketch of him which I did from the last memory of the victim. I know that face, Lance said. You know him? Blake asked. He's on Fate's list of people to die at my hand, Lance said. How do you know a face in a list? Blake asked. A folder appeared in Lance's hand. His file. You aren't the only one who does paperwork, Lance said, and handed over the folder to Blake, who read the file. That's him, said Blake. Somehow he knew he was on my radar, Lance said. He wants you out of the way so you don't kill him, Blake said. He's a serial killer who got away with his crimes, that's why he was on my list, Lance said. I see, Blake said. I think he is due to have a visit from Mortimer and the Necromancer, Blake said. To put the fear of God in him, Lance said. Yes, no one is afraid of Blue Midnight and the Enchanter, Blake said. Later, elsewhere, the killer was processing a murdered victim for disposal. I am the Grim Reaper, here to take your soul, a Grim Reaper said in a voice like a dying man, reaching one bony arm out to the killer. What? Said the killer, turning around to see the Reaper Mortimer walking towards him. Repent or die, Mortimer said, acting scary. The killer pulled the knife he was cutting the cadaver up with up and pointed it at Mortimer, who laughed like a madman. You can't kill a skeleton with a knife, said the Reaper. What the? Said the killer, feeling a sharp thing pointed into his back. Boo, Lance said. What do you want and don't say, my soul? You sound like a church, said the killer. We are here to see that you pay for your murders, said Lance. What murders? Said the killer nervously, fully aware they saw his latest victim. You framed me for one of your murders, Lance said darkly. The Necromancer? Asked the killer. Who else? Lance said, and then laughed like a madman. Suddenly the killer found himself at the police station, surrounded by the police. The sergeant was eating a sandwich when he saw them. Get them, the sergeant screamed. Confess, Lance ordered. He had his sword in the killer's back. This is the true killer of the second murdered victim attributed to the Necromancer, Mortimer hissed. What? Said Renard. I interrogated the ghost of his victim. He fingered him, the Reaper said. Why is there a Reaper here? Asked Renard. I am here to clear his name, said the Reaper. What have you done to Lance Alexander, your lover? Asked Renard. Oh please. I'm married, He's just a friend, who wanted to clear my name. He knew you'd start throwing wild accusations. I told him about my victim so he lied and defended me. Lance snapped, how did you know you were on my list? A ghost told me, said the killer. Why is he covered with blood? Asked Renard of the killer. He was cutting up his latest victim when we caught him. He's a serial killer, Mortimer said, and thought I'll deal with that ghost. Who is he? Renard asked. A folder materialized in Renard's hand. The list of crimes of this killer, Lance said. Arrest that man, ignore the Grim Reaper, he's dead, Renard said. The Reapers are harmless, more bark than bite, they are vultures around souls. What I want to know is why a Reaper would help the killer, the Necromancer, even if he was innocent? Who are you to him? Mortimer disappeared into thin air. Bye, Dad, said Lance in Mortimer's mind. Arrest those murderers. Renard snapped, pointing at Lance and the killer. See you around, said Lance, disappearing into thin air. Who's that guy? Asked the Enchanter, walking in the room moments later with Blue Midnight. What did we miss? Blake asked. The Necromancer and a Grim Reaper just apprehended a serial killer. Renard said, we haven't a clue where to find his victims. We'll need you to talk to your friend Mortimer the Grand Reaper to find the bodies. A Reaper was with him? If I know my friend Mort, he'll have hell to pay if Mort catches him. He doesn't like the Necromancer, right son? Said Blake, beaming. Yes, they hate each other, said Lance, smiling. Why are you blocking your minds? Renard said, why aren't you two fighting? You are worse than Blake and Max non-stop fighting. What started the love in? Oh. Come on. You hate each other. What is wrong with you? I love my children, Blake said. I don't agree with them sometimes. Same with me, even if he's got a paperwork fetish I don't understand. I love my dad, he's the best dad, Lance said. What are you, changelings? Come to my office, I'll have to investigate this, Renard said.